All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro Podcast, the business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. My name is Jerry. I'm your host, and we're going to talk about new patients today. Specifically, I want to answer the question, I'm a chiropractor, and how do I get more new patients? Now, I do want to say that for a lot of you, there's going to be like a frustration that comes along with this, listening to this podcast, because what you want when you ask that question, and I get asked this question a lot, you want a very straightforward, all you have to do is answer. Just, it's an answer that starts with just do ... And we live in a world where it's really rampant. If you listen to chiropractic marketing gurus, you go to seminars. I mean, there are people that have been around for, 25, 30 years who have been teaching marketing to chiropractors who have a tendency to make something that isn't simple sound simple and easy. And I would actually draw a parallel between the chiropractic marketing, getting new patients space, and the making money space. Like if you were to go online, and maybe you've done this already, we were like, how can I make more money? And whether it's YouTube, blogs, like these gurus, whatever, they're going to make things sound so easy. I mean, it's going to sound like if you're not making $500,000 a year, like what are you even doing? Like if you're that should be normal. That should be average. Our society as a whole, especially people that consume this making money culture, they have this idea that it's simple, it's easy, everyone can do it, and that everybody's making $500,000 a year. Everybody's $1 million. If you're not a millionaire, it's your own fault. And you're in those situations, you're taking something that isn't easy and you're making it sound easy. And oftentimes it's for their own benefit. Like these are people that are selling programs, or they're getting popular off of this message, or they're just ignorant. I mean, I've seen chiropractic students, I've heard chiropractic students do podcasts talking about running a practice and getting new patients and making it sound easy. And it's like, you haven't practiced a day in your life, like not a minute in your life. And so that would be someone who would fall into the category of being ignorant. And I also think there's a lot of people that just parrot what they hear from other people. So I just want to start off by saying that it's not just as simple as one little thing and one easy thing. And if someone's making it sound that way, I would proceed with caution. And I'm not saying that they don't have something valid to offer in their service or their coaching or consulting or whatever it is that they're doing, but just proceed with caution, because when you take something that's not simple and easy and you make it sound that way, I think you're oftentimes setting people up with unrealistic expectations, and that just leads to frustration. You start wondering like, what's wrong with me and whatever. And you start asking the wrong questions. So what we're going to do here is, instead of me giving you all you have to do is, or a just do blah, 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 we're just going to unpack this, and we're going to talk about things you need to consider when you're trying to get more new patients. We're going to talk about your options, because there are a lot of options, and it is a really good time to be a chiropractor from the standpoint of marketing options, where to start. And then we're going to give some final thoughts. I'll just kind of wrap it up with some final thoughts, and I'll kind of end it on a note that I think is really important for chiropractors. So that's going to be the plan for the day. Now, before I get too far into that, I do want to invite you guys, if you like the podcast, but you'd like to go more in depth with some training, or you'd like access to me to ask me questions, then check out my Next Step program. It's for chiropractors. It is business and marketing. It's branding. It's that sort of thing. It's really great for chiropractors that are getting started. It's really great for chiropractors that have been out for a little while and feeling a little bit stuck. So if that sounds like you're a listener to the podcast and you want to take things a little bit deeper, check out my Next Step program. That's where you can do that. Also, if you happen to want a better website, better SEO, or you want help with your Google ads, reach out to me through Rocket Chiro. I'd be glad to help you if I can, like if I'm a good fit. Like I'm not a good fit for everybody, but if you're a listener to the podcast, you like what I have to say, we're already kind of on the right track there. So I've been doing some really cool things with some local SEO. Like I've sort of been rolling out some different stuff with local SEO, and it's really been doing some awesome stuff. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll actually see some of the before and afters that I've posted on Instagram recently. It's pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about new patients. So things to consider, and this isn't in any particular order, But I just want to go through these things real quick. Just get them in your brain when you're thinking about like, how do I get more new patients? I need more new patients. Like, what do I do? So one of the things you need to consider is that there isn't one answer for everyone. I say this just because we live in a world where there's a lot of access to a lot of people. Like you, I'm sure that if you're listening to my podcast, this isn't the only chiropractic podcast that you listen to. You're probably listening to other gurus, you're reading books, there's chiropractic podcasts that have new guests on every single week. And they have people that come on and they will tell you what they did that made them successful or that helped them. And there's different things that people will say in different times. So just don't get stuck into the thought that there's one particular way of doing things. This is also true if you have a mentor or somebody you really admire. You don't have to have practice exactly the same way that they do in order to be successful. And if you get stuck into that pattern, that can be a bad place to be. The other problem that you'll have, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, the other problem you could potentially have from listening to a lot of different voices is you could start creating this person in your brain that is good at everything and you're not, which sort of takes me to my next point, which is you don't have to be balanced. I think it's good to have a balanced marketing approach. I think it's good to have a balanced plan when it comes to your business in general, but you specifically don't have to be balanced. And even the results that you get from your market don't have to be balanced. Some people are going to be really heavy into social media. Some people are going to be really heavy into local search. Like some people are going to be getting a lot of patients from referrals. Some people are going to get a lot of patients from running ads on Google. So you don't have to have, if you're doing 5 different things, you don't have to have all of them performing equally well. This is sort of a mistake people get into when they do landing pages is they'll be like, oh, I'm going to run some ads. If I run ads for headaches and they do well, then if I run ads for headaches, low back, sciatica, whatever, like all this stuff, they'll do equally as well. That's generally not the case. You tend to do better in some areas than not, and that's okay. I give you permission to have imbalanced results. 2 other things you want to ask yourself, which as you're going down this process, is what is my time frame and what is my budget? If you're not honest about your time frame, you're not honest about your budget, then you could just make bad decisions when it comes to all the different options that are available to you from a new patient standpoint. And last thing we'll talk about in this section where we're talking about things to consider is something I did do a whole podcast about recently, so I'm not going to go deep into this, but the starting point for all marketing is meeting new people. So if you're creating content and you're saying to yourself, like, I just really like creating content, which I'm cool with. I love creating content. So if you're a content creator and that content isn't reaching new people, you have to figure out, how do I reach more people with that content? Maybe that's content plus ads. Maybe it's a different type of content where there's some organic push that comes from that content, but there needs to be a plan for reaching new people. If you're doing social media, you're posting a lot on social media. If you're only reaching the people that are already connected to you, you need to figure out a way to reach out beyond that and bring more people into the awareness of you. So that's kind of the starting point for all new patients. So those are things to consider when you're going down the path of trying to figure out, how do I get more new patients? All right, let's talk about your options. I would put chiropractic marketing into 3 options, like 3 basic big bucket categories. That's going to be online marketing, offline marketing, and retention. And I throw retention in there as a marketing piece because if you have a leaky bucket, it really just undermines everything you're doing online and offline. If you've got a bunch of new people coming in, but you're not, and retention can have to do with how you're onboarding people. It could have to do with people management. Like there's a human being element to chiropractic that is difficult. And so there's that. There's the follow-up plan that you have. There's the initial recommendations. There are the quality of care that you provide. Like all of that can play into retention. So it's good to have some sort of plan, some sort of structure, some sort of intentionality behind your retention. That way, if you're spending money and time doing the outreach marketing, you're not losing people that have already been patients of yours. That seems like a sort of a silly way to go about practice. So online, offline retention. Online is obviously things like websites, SEO, Google ads, social media, et cetera, et cetera. There's tons of online opportunities now, which is probably the time. If I ever make things sound easy, it's because these opportunities exist now and they didn't exist even when I started my practice. Like when I started my practice, I sort of grew up in the old world. I came out in the old world and sort of matured as the world changed into online marketing. I mean, I remember when do I have a website was a question that chiropractors were really asked. Like, should I have a website is a question that chiropractors were asking. I remember going on YouTube because I was kind of just curious, like, are chiropractors posting anything on YouTube? And I found like 2 or 3 chiropractors, like all of YouTube that were posting. So it was such an early thing. I remember doing Facebook ads when you can only do the little side column ads. And when they first came out, and I was asking my friends about it because we were doing like newspaper lead generation, and we were doing a lot of like traditional marketing, a lot of like old school marketing, like flyers, and I mean stuff in the yellow pages and whatever. Like that was what we were doing back then. Like that was the thing that worked. And I saw this opportunity with like Google or like Facebook ads. It wasn't even Google ads; it was Facebook ads. And I thought, wow, this is actually really interesting. And everybody I talked to about it, there was a chiropractor, were like, why are you wasting time on this? And so it's funny to see how much that's changed and how much of an opportunity is. So if there's anything you hear me say from a standpoint of, hey, it's easier now than it used to be, I think that the variety of ways that you can reach people, the bar has been lowered. It's easier to reach people now than it was ever than it ever has been in the past, and that's through online, through social media. You still have to do it right, but the opportunity is there. Offline marketing still a thing. So referrals, networking, face to face, big media, print. I have this thought about the up and comingness of AI and how that could potentially make face to face and kind of offline marketing even more valuable as time goes on. I mean, you guys watch this. I mean, there's probably 3 people that watch my videos on YouTube, so nobody really watches me on YouTube. But if you're I mean, listening to my voice and even watching my face, we're not that far away from this all being faked. Like it could be faked. I mean, we're really, really close to that. Some of the AI stuff that comes out now, it's still a little janky. Like you can kind of tell that it's AI, but it's real close. And as we go to that place where you could physically be watching someone, you could listen to someone's voice, and it could be a totally fake, made up person. There's going to be some skepticism that comes along with that. Like that's going to be the natural thing that happens. And I think the correction of that is going to be the face-to-face, shaking someone's hand, seeing they're a real person, being involved in your community. Like those things are going to become more important as time goes on. I think we're going to revert back to some of those things. Like that's some of my thoughts about offline marketing. So I think that there's a value there. There's also some really great opportunities there. It just sort of depends on your area and what you want to do. But so those are your options. Those are your 3 basic big categories: your online marketing, offline marketing, and retention. I think you should have something going on in all of these areas. Which ones you lean more into than others, like that's completely up to you. And that's sort of the frustration of all of this, is that there isn't one specific exact way that it works for everybody. Like that's sort of the frustration. And that's sort of the frustration with being a chiropractor. With being a chiropractor, the leadership element of it, I think, is one of the things that a lot of people struggle with. Like a lot of people are really good. They would be perfectly fine with patients. They would be perfectly fine with adjusting people. It's the managing of human beings. It's the managing of staff. It's the decisions in the business. It's all of that stuff. I think that oftentimes overwhelms chiropractors. It's not the actual chiropracticing that does it, which is sort of plays into what we're talking about here. All right. So where do I start? I think there's a foundational place for everyone. And the foundational place would be your marketing message, being clear about who you are, what you offer. Like I talked about that on a different podcast. If you want some help with that, I have a section in my Next Step trainings called Know Your Purpose. I would recommend checking it out. It would be worth, even if you just paid for a month, to go through that and to like kind of get clear on your marketing message. I think it would be worth doing. Marketing message, website, Google Business Profile, social media platforms, and review and referral plan. I think those things are foundational. And so you may do some of those things better than others. You may spend a little bit of money on some and do some of it yourself. Like I'm not telling you the exact formula to do these things, but I do think that you need to have a clear marketing message. You need to have your website set up, your Google Business Profile set up. You need to have your social media platforms. Even if you're not heavy in social media, like I'm not heavy in social media. Like I'm not a social media guy. I don't act and behave and do the things necessary to promote myself and be big on social media. It's not really my personality. And so, but I still have social media platforms. I get clients from social. Like I benefit from social. I just don't do it in a really heavy social way that's going to be really popular pretty much ever. And so, but I still have them. So even if you're having aversion to doing a lot of like, treatment videos and getting crazy on social, I still think you should have them, and there should be some sort of basic plan of what you're doing with them. And then referrals and reviews. Just make sure you have a plan for that as well. Make those things normal. That's your starting point for your marketing for getting new patients. If you don't have those things right, I don't know what you're doing with the other stuff. It's like, what are you doing? Get that stuff right. Next, you're going to ask the question. And these are 3 questions that you're going to ask, that you're going to have to answer for yourself. That's where are my skills? What are my interests? And where are my opportunities? The combination of those things is going to lead you in the directions you should go. As you're sitting there and you're looking at all these different ways, you got your foundational stuff set up to kind of a basic satisfactory level, like whatever that is. And then you're looking at all these opportunities. You're like, am I going to go heavy into social media? Am I going to go heavy into YouTube? Am I going to go heavy into creating content? Am I going to go heavy into networking? Am I going to go heavy into community involvement? Am I going to go heavy into, am I going to try to build a referral-based practice? Like, is that the long-term plan? And that's like, do I need to head in that direction? What am I going to do? What will help you decide which direction to go is going to be, what are my skills? What are my interests? What are my opportunities? And then you have to balance that with those questions we asked before, which is what is my time frame and what is my budget? And so all of that stuff comes together. And if you can answer those questions honestly, you can start to get some clarity on where to start. And I find with chiropractors that most of them actually don't have trouble envisioning their ideal practice 5 years from now. Most of them have trouble envisioning like what to do today, like what to do this month, like how to get started. And I think it's a lot harder to see like what does crappy version 1 of your ideal practice look like? Like it's harder to see that. Like I can tell you everything I would like if money was no option and I had the perfect job and like all the money I ever needed, and like what would my life look like? Well, that's a fun exercise. That's easy to do, right? Like who can't do that? Like that's, go get yourself something to drink, sit in a nice chair, just go sit in the backyard and dream up your wonderful life. That's easy. But what do you do tomorrow? Like what do you do next week? Like that's the hard thing. And these are the questions that get you headed in the right direction. What are my skills? What are my opportunities? What is my interest? If you don't have interest in the things you're doing, you tend to undermine it. I think short term, you can do wherever there's an opportunity. I think that there's sometimes it doesn't matter whether you like it or not, sort of like spinal screenings. But if it's not something you really enjoy doing or interested in doing, you're not going to do it for long. You're not going to stick with it. And so it should be a long-term plan, but sometimes you have to disregard your interests and just do what do you have the skill to do and what do you have the opportunity to do. I hate spinal screenings. There's never been one spinal screening I've ever gone to that I enjoyed. And, but some people feel that way about talks. Some people feel that way about social media. Like some people feel that way about creating content or networking. If you're an introvert like me, going out and meeting new people, like I'm going to go meet my neighbors that have businesses near me. I'm going to go introduce myself to the other moms, the moms groups. If I'm doing mom chiropractic stuff, if the sports people, if I'm doing sports chiropractic, like I'm going to go try to find a way to introduce myself to them. Like that's torture for someone like me. But if you have the ability to do it, you have the opportunity to do it, and that's the direction you want your practice to go. Like sometimes you got to kind of bypass your interests a little bit, but those are the questions that you want to ask. And I would put your interest as the lowest thing on all of that. Consider your time, your time frame, your budget, your skills, and your opportunity before you consider your interest. But the interest is the icing on the cake. It's good to want to do what you want to do. Otherwise, you're not going to stick with it. I don't even know if that made sense. All right, some final thoughts. I'm going to wrap this up with some final thoughts. Number 1, just get started. It's do a basic level of planning, whatever that is, an acceptable level. Like it's not as high as you think it is. Like just do something basic and then get started. It's never going to be perfect. You're going to suck at stuff when you first start. It's going to be terrible. Like the first videos I ever recorded, like when I told you, I saw there was a couple chiropractors on YouTube and I was like, oh, I'm going to start recording videos. And I was still in practice. So I started recording videos and putting them on YouTube, like educational stuff. They were terrible. I mean, if you think this is bad, they were I mean, embarrassingly, gloriously terrible. And it's, what do you do? Like, what do you do? You just get started. Podcasting's that way. Content creation, writing is that way. Like, just get started. Come up with a plan, do the best you can with your prep and get started. I will say this, if you're dragging your feet about getting started, you're probably just scared. Let's just be honest. You're probably just scared. It's not a planning thing. Like I'm just perfectionist. No, you're scared. And I say that from someone who's genuinely scared about doing a lot of things. So I'll just be honest with you guys. Fear causes me to drag my feet. And I like to tell people I'm planning, but I'm just scared. And so it's okay to be scared because things are, starting new things and doing new things and putting yourself out there. It is scary. It's just not okay to let that fear keep you from taking your first steps. Because the nice thing about taking those first steps is as soon as you get out of your comfort zone, it expands your comfort zone. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. My wife told me one time that she thought I was very confident when I was doing my videos or doing my podcast or whatever. She's like, "You're so confident on there." She knows me. She knows I'm a horribly insecure person. and and I said, well, it's a comfort level, I mean, I'm not trying to be fake. I'm not trying to be disingenuous. I don't want to come across like I know everything, but I've done a lot of podcasts. And so I'm very comfortable doing podcasts. And this has nothing to do with my security and insecurity as a human being in general, but there's a comfort level that comes along with doing something. And that starts with starting. So get started, stop making excuses and get started. Next is don't take unnecessary risks. This is really more about finances than anything, but there's a lot of people out there that are going to sell you things that you probably shouldn't be paying for, at least not right now. Some of the stuff is just ridiculous, meaning they're making you promises they can't possibly keep. Some of the stuff is just bad timing. I talked to a chiropractor a while back that wanted to do this really expensive certification program, and he was just on such a tight budget. I told him, I said, this is not wise. Like, this is not smart. And I don't know that he listened to me. I have a feeling he was wanting an affirmation. He wasn't actually wanting advice, but I just gave him dad advice. And I just said, listen, man, it's like wanting a Ferrari as your first car. Like, that's not smart. It's not a good investment. It's not necessary. Do something else, do something cheaper, do something that makes sense. So just don't put yourself in unnecessary risk. This is one of the reasons I'm an advocate for micropractice, is because I think it's a great way to get started and it keeps you from putting yourself in unnecessary risk. You have to humble yourself a little bit with it, but I think that's better. It's better to have not enough space than not enough new patients, not enough money. Like I would take the less space problem. Number 3, test and tweak what you're doing. You should constantly be testing and tweaking. Don't ever assume you have it right. You don't. There's better ways of doing what you're doing. You just use the data available to you, use feedback that people give you. Some people are really critical. Like I have people that criticize me all the time with my podcast, and some of the stuff is valid where I go, oh, I think I could do a better job with that. Some of the stuff is just people expecting something that's not what I do. Like that's not the way my podcast is formatted. That's not the way that that's not the way I communicate information. Somebody that wants a little, 2-3 minute blip clip with the highlights and like nothing else, like no nuance, no like unpacking of things, sometimes talking a little too much, sometimes telling stories, like that there's a way that I communicate that doesn't appeal to some people. And so some of it I just have to disregard and say, well, that's just not my person. And that's okay. But I think you can take all the data and all the information that you have available and just test and tweak what you're doing, because you're going to figure out better ways of doing it. And if you have staff that works for you, they're going to figure out better ways of doing things. So just have a spirit of testing and tweaking, make that part of your process that goes on all the time. Sort of along the same lines as be willing to change. And I'm not going to harbor on this because I've talked about it a little bit off and on throughout this whole podcast, but just don't get stuck in a pattern. Don't get stuck in like, this is the way it has to be. And I would say the flip side of be willing to change is also be patient. And didn't even put that in my notes, but some people are too willing to change. Like you're constantly looking for home runs. You don't let anything simmer. You're not testing and tweaking things. You just try it once, it doesn't work, and then you scrap it. That's kind of the flip side of this. Like the two extremes is you're just change it too much too quick all the time. And then there's the kind of hell bent on getting it to work a certain way and it just isn't work. It's not working. Like you have to go a different path. You got to change something. And some people just are stubborn to do that. Those are the two extremes of change that you want to avoid. It really is a spirit of testing and tweaking and kind of going from there. Last thing I'm going to say, and I've said this a million times on my podcast, I'm going to say it again, is be committed to excellence. I wish chiropractors were known for being excellent. I think there's an epidemic of poor quality in our profession. Some people are bad adjusters. Some people are doing acupuncture and they're terrible at that. Some people say they're pediatric chiropractors and they're not very good at it. Now, I'm not saying you have to be good at everything when you first start, but you should have a spirit of excellence. There should be a commitment to excellence. Like when you're getting started and you're like, I'm going to start doing upper cervical. Like, well, listen, you're not going to be as good at it as you are going to be in 5 years or 10 years. But is there a level of excellence that you should be committed to and be honest with yourself and be willing to put in the time and willing to practice and willing to learn to be good at that thing? Or are you just going to go to a seminar for a weekend and then just that's the last bit of improvement you do, and then you just crack a bunch of eggs to make an omelet? I think chiropractors are way too sloppy across the board. It makes me nervous. Like somebody had asked me the other day about how to find a good chiropractor, and I was like, man, what an interesting, I don't know. I don't know. Because I know things that they don't know. So it's like there's certain things that I would look for in a chiropractor that I would just be like, oh, those are red flags because I know that that's a little fishy based on my own experience as a chiropractor, but I have a lot of experience in the chiropractic profession to kind of make that decision. How do you tell the average person how to find a good chiropractor? I wish I was more comfortable with that. I wish I could say like, no, chiropractors are great. Like you're going to find a good one. Like, no, I think you're just as likely to find a terrible one as a good one. And I think that's terrible. And I think that if even if it's there's a tiny percentage of chiropractors that listen to my podcast. Tiny percentage. I am nothing in the chiropractic industry. But those of you who listen to this, be known for excellence. If you're doing something, if you're selling something, if you're providing something, do a good job. And if you don't do a good job right now, be committed to get better. But don't be okay with being crappy at something, even if you're making money doing it. There are chiropractors who make good money and they're not good chiropractors. Like if you want to, like people talk about, and I used to be very dogmatic about chiropractic, about how it should be. It should be this particular philosophy and this particular adjusting style and this particular, and if you do anything other than that, you're not a chiropractor. You're something else. And I used to be dogmatic about it and I'm not anymore. I think that the variety in chiropractic and the diversity in chiropractic is amazing and awesome and great. And I wouldn't take it away even if I could. What I would take away is the sloppy nature of chiropractic. And I think if you're going to do it well. Be known for that. If our profession was known for excellence, that would be freaking awesome. That would be amazing. If you want to progress the profession, that's a long way to do it. Be trustworthy and be excellent. Man, that would make a difference. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for subscribing. If you know a chiropractor that you can share the podcast with, I would really appreciate it. Like I said, this is not a big podcast. Like there's not tons and tons of people that listen to this. It's more like hundreds and not thousands, maybe probably thousands. I don't know. Like it's not a huge number. It's not a huge number. And there are a lot more chiropractors that probably need the help from this podcast than the ones that are actually getting it. So if you'd be willing to share it with someone, that would be super helpful for me. That would help me reach new people. So I would really appreciate it. If you want help yourself, go to Rocket Chiro, check out the services that we offer. If there's something I can do to help you, I would love to do that. If you're a better fit with something else, I would be happy to help you find somebody else that can help you. And I would be happy to tell you that you're not a great fit for what we do. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you once again for listening. I'll talk to you on the next episode.